Hi, my name's Brandy, and I want to make a part 2 to the video I made about 6 months ago about a narcissist sociopath, how they use your friends and family against you, and also about how it's hard during the holidays being with a narc because I've experienced that, and I used to have a notebook that had some pointers, but I lost it. And I'm going to try to do the videos more often. I know it's been a while since I've been on here. I do have a toddler running around, so if you hear any noises, just try to ignore it the best you can. So anyways, I wanted to talk about some things with the friends and family, because I remember with my ex-narc sociopath, that was a really big problem when we were together, where he would lie to them and embellish things and make me look bad and make himself look great. And it was an even bigger problem after we split up. When I left him, it was really terrible. He would contact people who maybe only that really didn't know me that long, like, or his coworkers and just other people, like relatives that didn't know him as long. Like if they knew me a long time before I was with him, most of the time they just wouldn't really take what he said too much with a grain of salt. And so, but if they didn't know me as long and they knew him and were around him, it would be harder to convince them that he was lying, because he was a really good liar. And he would, just kind of like kiss their butt, basically. And so anyways, I just remember how that was a really big problem, and he used it against me in a really bad way. I'm sorry if I talk fast, but my phone doesn't have much storage, so I'm going to have to try to go through quick. And I remember another time in particular where, just as an example of some things that he would do that were just really over the top. He took a picture of something because I had been really sick and the house was behind, the dishes were not looking good, and we got in an argument about it. It wasn't that big of a deal, but he started getting nasty and just acting like I was a terrible housewife, terrible housekeeper, terrible person, and that I never did anything around the house, when the opposite was actually the truth. I was usually doing all of the work and basically, pretty clean. And so, but because I corrected him and I said, you should help your family when your family needs help, and you go out and help everybody else, your friends and your family and even my friends, so that you can look like a big hero, which is basically why he did it. But yet, when I need a little bit of help once in a while, you can't do it. You won't do it. And if you do it, it's nonstop complaining the whole time. And so, of course, he didn't like that, because every narcissist I've ever known and seen doesn't like to be criticized at all. They don't handle it well at all. And so he got pretty nasty. He took a picture of the kitchen, of the dirty dishes, saved it on his phone, basically saying he's going to show everybody, he's going to show all of our friends and family what a dirty person I am, and that the house is a mess all the time, even though it's not. He also abused by proxy. He used friends and family against me. He called CPS. I talked about that in the last video, and told a bunch of lies and just would twist things around. He might say one tiny little piece of truth that really wasn't a big deal and really wasn't like that bad, and then he would add other things to it and twist it around and embellish it to the point that it became something terrible. And this was a constant thing. It was constant lying, constant exaggerations. Even if he just told a simple story about, something funny that happened when he went to the store, if it costed $5, to him it costed $10. And I would pick up on things like that eventually, and my family would too, the ones that knew me for like my whole life, and the ones that knew him for a longer period of time would eventually pick up on stuff that he just would exaggerate stuff ridiculously. And I would look at the receipt and see, oh, it was only actually $5, but yet he tells the story and it's $10. And then the next time he tells the story, it's $15. So anyways, I just remember that being a constant thing, constantly telling people bad things about me, friends and family. If I were to ever criticize him, ever argue with him about something, and I believe the reason that they do this is because they really need that supply. They need that boost to their ego. They need to look like they're the hero. You know, he's the greatest guy on earth. He's the man. And if his friends asked him, because he needs that, they need that, or she, they need that because they're so sick that they use that to feel like they have some value as a person and some self-worth. But then if you do anything to them, if you correct them or you argue with them or make them mad, then they use that against you and make you look like you're the bad one and you're the one who's doing things wrong and you're crazy. And that can be very, very difficult to deal with. And I just remember things like that happening all the time. And I remember that it makes you feel like you're crazy, and everybody's against you, and you're not crazy. You're just with a narcissistic person, and sometimes narcissistic sociopath too, like my ex was. He would even use the kids against me at times where, you know, you're trying to be a parent, you're trying to say, no, you can't have that candy bar right now, you can't do this, you know, because it's for their own good. But then when they go ask him, of course, daddy always says yes, because mommy's mean, mommy's the bad guy, mommy's the rule enforcer, mommy's the one who ruins everything. So it can even go as far as to using children, especially if they're really young, which mine were. And so anyways, I remember also how difficult the holidays could be. I remember that we lived in different places. We grew up in California, and when we went for Thanksgiving, it was usually one family, the next family the next year. Christmas time was usually split up, a few hours with mine, a few hours with his. And I just remember the difference and contrast. When I was with my family, I felt like I could be myself. I felt like, you know, it was a fair playing ground. If we were to get in an argument or something, it wouldn't be like everybody would just immediately take his side. But if we were around his family in California, and when we moved to Arkansas in 2009, which was only his family there, and in North Carolina 2010, which was basically just a couple friends and his coworkers. It was more people that knew him the first few years here than me. And so whenever we were around his people, I always felt very uncomfortable, very tense, and just very on guard. Like I always felt like if something were to go down, it would automatically be he's the great guy, he's the victim, and I'm the bad guy. And there were some things that happened to prove that, because he had them wrapped around his finger, and he had himself boosted up so high in their eyes that he was like a hero and would make me look crazy and make me look like I was just being a bitch, basically. So anyways, I remember being at his family's house at one particular time, and his family made a racial slur, a racial comment in front of my children. I'm sorry. They made a racial slur in front of my children, and I didn't care for that, and I let them know. Just one second. Yeah, I let them know that I didn't care for that, especially in front of my children. And of course, I was made to look like I was just being oversensitive, and by him and by his relatives, that it wasn't a big deal. And that was that. So I always felt like it was like just a facade, that it was just fake and phony, and I couldn't be myself, and it was always about him, and it was always about him boosting himself up and, you know, making himself look great in front of them. Okay. And like he cared more about, you know, what they thought than what I ever thought. And but I just want to let you know that these things happen when you're with a narcissist, and you're not crazy. And I want people to know about these things, because if you're with somebody like that, I want to encourage you that if they're not willing to change and work on stuff really hard, you might want to consider not being with them. Because I know that my life has changed dramatically, not being with that person anymore, and it's just a whole different world of freedom. But also, if you aren't going to leave, I still want to encourage you that you're not crazy, and that you're not a bad person. You're just with a sick person, and I think that helps, just knowing that. And if you do leave, expect things to get nasty. Okay. And anyways, and if I had known that things would have got that bad, that he would have attacked my character that badly to a point where I never thought it would have gone, I think it would have helped. I think I would have been able to prepare better. I think I would have been able to make myself less vulnerable to those attacks, and just been able to handle it better. So, all right, well, thank you. She's getting fussy, so I'm just going to wrap it up. Thank you. Be strong, and God bless.